So I decided to do my final paper on a literature review on how genetic testing is being used to convict relatives of those who use ancestry websites without their knowledge. So, who need this information and why? My purpose of my paper is to inform users of genealogical websites such as Ancestry.com, 23andMe, and GED Match of the potential risks and safety concerns that may arise with genealogical testing being used by FBI and investigators to solve crimes. And then the audience for this is people who have sent in or upload their DNA to ancestry websites in order to find out more about their genealogical makeup and where their ancestors came from. So, an overview of what my paper is going to be about. Genetic testing in the field of criminology is a relatively new practice. It just started recently in like 2018. And it's helping law enforcement capture criminals of unsolved cases, some of which is going unsolved for decades until now. And what is genetic testing? So, genetic testing is also known as DNA testing, and um, it's used to identify changes in DNA sequence or chromosome structure. And then, what's the difference between Ancestry.com and 23andMe compared to the self-service of GED Match? So, Ancestry.com, um, it's using your DNA samples to find DNA results from your descendants. So, take a kit and you take samples of your DNA and submit those to their labs. So, you'll send them off when you purchase your kit. And I'll talk a little bit about how the process works. And they'll then send you your results, and you'll get those from who you're descended by, who your descendants are, um, through direct contact, so like grandparents, things like that. What GED matches is it takes all forms, so anybody can upload their own DNA results to GED match, and it connects you to other relatives that you may have. Um, it uses similar genetic makeups to connect you to potential relatives. And so, how does this process work? So, users voluntarily upload their DNA samples to GED Match. So, most of the cases that we're going to talk about, and most of the ones that are being solved through genealogical testing, is through GED Match. It's not through Ancestry or 23andMe. Um, and what GED Match then does is they put you in this giant database. And so, when people are solved or convicting crimes, what they're doing is their potential suspects are leaving their DNA at the crime scene. So this DNA could have been collected over any point of time. It doesn't really matter, just as long as there was DNA found. And then investigators then send this DNA to Parabon Labs. So Parabon Labs is a commercial forensic genealogical service. So they'll receive these DNA testings and they'll analyze them. So they'll give you basic information like skin color, hair color, eye color. And if you think that it's going to be a match, what you do is they'll then do further testing with their expert genealogists and connect the DNA to family trees and relatives until you've narrowed down who your suspect is. And so that's exactly, we'll talk about two cases, and that's exactly what they did there. What laws and policies are in place to protect users of these websites? This is a question I'm still working on that I'll continue to research. And then what does genealogical testing look like in the future is something else that I'm going to continue to research as well before my papers due. So a little bit of background about genealogical testing. It first, the first really big high profile case that was caught with the use of this was Joseph James DeAngelo, also known as the Golden State Killer. He killed approximately 12 women in California, spanning from the 1970s to the 1980s. He also was charged with raping over 50 women and had multiple burglary charges. And so, what they did is they had DNA samples of his at the crime scenes. So, investigators sent those to Parabon Labs, and Parabon Labs then uploaded them to GED Match, where they were able to find his, I think he was caught through his second cousin. So, they narrowed down the results and they were able to catch him after 40 years. Same with John Miller. John Miller killed is convicted of killing April Tinsley. She was an 8-year-old in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he also left DNA at the crime scenes, and he continued to leave DNA samples all throughout Fort Wayne. And so they used those to then send to Parabon. Parabon then matched those to other ancestors on or relatives on GED match, and they narrowed it down to either him or his brother. And ultimately, they figured out that John Miller was the killer of April Tinsley, and that happened in 1988. And it had taken almost over 30 years for them to catch her as well, or catch him as well, not her. So some preliminary findings. So I actually submitted my own DNA test to Ancestry.com in order to learn how the process works and to find the precautions they take to ensure the safety of their users' DNA. So what you do first, and I'll show you a picture of the kit in a second, but you buy this DNA kit and you'll spit inside this tube, and then you register your ID. So you have your own ID that identifies you and your DNA, and you'll link this on the app, and then you send off your DNA to headquarters, which are in Utah, and you'll have your results between 6 to 8 weeks. And so here is what this looks like. So this little box you get, and your ID code will be listed right here, and it's also on this tube. So you spit in this tube up until this black line, and then you put this blue on top of it, blue capsule on top, and you shake it up to incorporate the two. You put it in this envelope, and then you just mail it off. It's pretty simple. And then, and so what are some precautions that they take? So when I was going through the app and setting up my profile, they asked me a lot of different questions. I had to go through a lot of different policy concerns, things like that. So one of them was asking me if I wanted to allow Ancestry.com to store my DNA, which I said no to. Ancestry is really big on saying that you are the owner of your own DNA. They don't own your DNA, it's yours. So I told them I wanted them to destroy it after I was done. I also said that I did not want my DNA to be used for research purposes. I don't want it going out to any second known or unknown senders. And then it said, do you want potential relatives to contact you? I said no to this right now, but I might change that later on. And then, so work completed. So I'm pretty much done with my background and my introduction. I'm probably going to add a few more things, tweak those up just a little bit, but for the most part, those are done. And then my sources are also pretty much completed. I have one of my favorite sources that I have. It's the reason I learned about this case is from Crime Junkie. And so they covered the April Tinsley case and talked about how they caught the case in Fort Wayne. Work remaining, so I still need to look at laws and policies that are already in place. I also need to look a little bit more at the future of genetic testing, where it's going and how things are going to be changing because it is so new. And I need to conduct a little bit more secondary research. And then feedback. So, I was just wanting to make sure that everybody has a clear understanding of what genetic testing is and how exactly it is being used. And then if you think genetic testing is beneficial or if it is a major privacy concern and it shouldn't be allowed. And then also I wanted to ask, will the purpose of my report be fulfilled when research is complete? Thank y'all.